Have you ever felt stuck in your growth journey, wondering how to build resilience in the face of challenges?
Or maybe you're looking to shift your mindset and unlock your full potential.
Well, if you said yes, then you are in the right place.
Welcome to the Stretch Zone. I'm Hannah.
And I am Feds.
And here we explore self-development, nurture resilience, and embrace the mindset shifts that help you grow beyond your limits.
Hello, guys, and welcome back. Hi, Hannah.
Hi, Feds. Welcome.
How are you today, Hannah? Tell me.
Good. Keeping warm. Snuggled up in Atlanta at the moment. It's done a really crazy number on us this week in the US. The temperatures across the whole of the US have absolutely dropped. I would not want to be, I just looked up Cincinnati this morning. I don't know why. I wouldn't want to be in Cincinnati this morning.
What's the temperature like in Cincinnati?
Well, sorry for Fahrenheit people, because I'm a weirdo. I use Celsius for outside temperatures and Fahrenheit for inside, just the way my phone is set up and the way my house is set up. So I'm going to talk about Celsius for outside temperature. I should have looked it up. In Cincinnati, when I woke up, it was minus 16. And
oh my God.
Here it was minus 6 when I woke up.
Oh, no. That's just wrong. That's just wrong on so many levels. Although I have to say, it must feel very Christmassy right now.
This might be broadcasting after Christmas, but we are still recording this before Christmas. And
exactly.
Coming from living in Australia for 9 years and Asia for 3 years on top of that, this definitely feels like Christmas again to this little English girl who is used to Christmas being in the cold weather.
Yeah. And I think this is like a perfect connection to what we're going to talk about today, because we're talking about seasonal blues abroad.
Yeah.
And this is going to be a favorite for all the British people who are listening to us. We're talking about the weather. Yes.
Who came up with this idea today?
I really wonder who came up with this. But honestly, I feel that this is something that often people don't talk about that much when they think about going to live overseas and moving to a new country. It's something that we often don't consider, and it sneaks in quietly, really. Especially if I remember living in Florida, and the very first year that I celebrated Christmas, it was so weird because it was 26 degrees outside Celsius, and it just felt so weird. Or sometimes, looking at pictures from my friends in Australia, and they're having a barbecue on the beach on Christmas Eve, and it's just something so weird. And it could work both ways.
Yeah.
If you are from a hot country, celebrating Christmas or the holidays in general in a different kind of environment can really have an impact. It can make us feel a little bit more melancholic, a little bit sad.
Mm-hmm.
There's something different that we can't really figure out completely, and it's just part of the adventure. But often people don't talk about it. Like we end up Googling. How am I going to survive 6 months of darkness? But we pretend that it's not happening in reality, right? I think it's probably more common for people coming from hot countries who move to cold countries, definitely. So the main point here is that there's a lot of different things involved, and it's not just the weather. I mean, seasonal blues, they come from many different reasons, and we're going to try and understand a little bit more what happens. The most important thing is that you're not alone. You are not the only one feeling a little bit strange this time of the year, whether you are in a hot country or a cold country. So
you say that, Feds, but I have to admit that I feel like I'm the anomaly, that you just said it's probably more likely people coming from hot countries going to a cold place, whereas you see, I feel the other way
Uh-huh.
around. And
Uh-huh.
I've talked about this before with you, where I have obviously lived in Australia for 9 years, and I was living in Vietnam before that. It was hot for Christmas every year for 12 years in a row. I think it was 13 Christmases in a row. And I, every summer, which is December time in Australia, every single year, for me, that was too much. And I would be Googling how to cope with this intense heat. So I was definitely the opposite. And for me, really, really hot weather affects me
Mm-hmm.
in a melancholy way. It makes me
Mm-hmm.
feel agitated. It makes me feel really irritated, and can make me feel quite sad and upset, actually.
Yeah, no, it makes complete sense. I think it's especially the holiday period, right? Which is what we're
Yeah,
going to be talking about
yeah, yeah,
today.
yeah.
So,
It's so true.
um, especially like I when I think about Christmas, I think about snow and cold and
Yeah,
just hot chocolate and
yeah,
like a fireplace. So it can really have an impact on how we live the festivities.
yeah.
But tell us a bit more about the science bit, the psychology behind these seasonal blues.
Yeah, so I think all of us do notice a difference when there's more or less daylight in a day. I definitely remember living in the UK, and you've recently been living in the UK for quite some time. So in the middle of winter, I don't know when it gets light in the morning, but it's late. But it certainly gets dark by 3:30. It can be almost pitch black in the middle of
Hmm.
winter. And I remember going to work in the dark and coming home in the dark. And that really, really affects you for sure.
Hmm.
The amount of daylight that you get to see in a day. And
Hmm.
all of us knows that we should be getting a certain amount of daylight on our skin, because we get vitamin D from the sunlight, and that affects our mood. So our brain uses daylight also as a clock as well. That was the only way that we could tell the time back in the day, before timepieces were invented for us all, and the iPhone. And basically, less sunlight on our body means less serotonin, and that's that happy hormone that we get from sunlight, from hugs that last 7 seconds, from eye gazing, all those good things. And serotonin really affects our mood. It also affects our energy, and then that can affect our motivation within the day or week. And the shorter the days are, um, really affects that rhythm that we have in our internal system. So you might notice in winter time that things just feel slower to you in terms of getting yourself up and out, usually. That's what
Hmm.
I feel.
Hmm.
So, like, you always feel much more, usually we feel much more lazy in bed in the morning when it's really dark
Hmm.
and cold. You just want to snuggle in more.
Yeah.
And maybe in the morning it can feel quite difficult to sort of get up and out and just be really energetic. However, personally, I also know that my energy level when it's really hot goes the same. It's just a different time
Hmm.
of the day, usually. But
Hmm.
right
Yeah.
now, I'm thinking about my morning this morning when it was -6.
Oh,
Both my husband and I definitely got deeper under the covers
yeah.
for
Yeah. No.
about 15 minutes before we finally braved it and got up and out. And we don't turn our heating on like we used to in England for a timer. It was as cold as it was, almost
Oh my
outside.
gosh.
Throughout the night, we kept putting more and more layers on to our covers. Definitely. So we can often be affected, and you might notice different times of the year that you feel more irritable because
Hmm.
of this sunlight effect. Um, and there's that lovely science that backs why we actually feel more irritable. We are literally lacking certain nutrients in our body if we're just in darkness the whole the
Mhm.
whole time. You really got to feel
Mhm.
for those people who live in Scandinavian countries where it's dark forever.
Yeah.
I'm so curious to one day visit just to see what it's like at those times of
Uh,
years.
yeah.
I find it
It
fascinating that people can live
yeah.
in those parts of the world. Totally fascinating. I'd love to hear from anyone that has grown up in a place where you have basically 24 hours of sunshine or zero. That's wild
Nothing in
to me,
between, yeah.
and nothing in between.
Mhm.
Totally wild. Um, and then obviously there's the opposite that we've been talking about. So um, for some people, there is a lot of stress on the body when it is too hot. I'm one of those people that definitely gets too hot, and I get really irritated and irritable when it gets too hot for me. I am definitely this Swiss English girl through and through. I grew up personally getting heat rashes. Obviously, I get sunburnt really easily. I was that kid that really struggled to be in the heat. I probably got a bit better as I've got older. Um, but I would really suffer from overheating as a kid, and I remember it. And yeah, I remember living in particular in Brisbane because the summers were so long there, and just thinking, when is this summer ever going to end? The really long, extensive, humid summers are not my friend um, at all. So we can it actually spikes our cortisol levels when we're at that level of too much. And obviously
Mhm.
different ethnicities, different what you're used to, we can adapt more to these different changes. um,
Mhm.
I've met so many people, especially where I live now, that absolutely hate this time of year. And I know 100% that our neighbours were pumping their heating when we were still pumping our aircon. We, in fact, talked about it not long ago. So our two houses that are adjoined were literally pressurising each other to try and find something that was a bit more accommodating for the two households that are next to each other, which is quite funny. Um, Other things to think about. So I grew up, for example, and so did you, in a place where you have distinct four seasons. And there are plenty
Mhm.
of places in the world where that doesn't really exist. So, for
Mhm.
example, I was living in Vietnam, you've basically got hot season and then
Yeah.
extra hot wet season. And Brisbane was somewhat similar, not quite, but there were some similarities there for sure. Um, and just for me personally, losing that sense of rhythm of the seasons was
Mhm.
really disorientating for me
Mhm.
personally. I know now that my preference is to always live in a place that has four seasons, and I've said that for
Mhm.
quite some time. If I could choose anywhere in the world, it would be somewhere that has distinct four seasons. And that was part of our choice when we came to moving into Atlanta. We had about 8 different places we could have kind of, not 100%, but we could have sort of chosen between. Um, and most of them were in hot places. So most of them were in Florida or Texas. And it was the weather that was the main factor for us to not go
Mhm.
to those places. We knew that's
Mhm.
just not going to work for us. My husband and I are very similar. He likes even colder weather than I do. His background is Hungarian, and you know what? Our blood, I guess, line doesn't lie when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Let's just face it, there are things that
Yeah.
make us all different. um, Funny little interlude here. We just went to New Zealand on our way back from Australia last month, and we went and stayed in a place called Wanaka. So it's next to this big, beautiful lake called Lake Wanaka. Some people pronounce it Wanaka or Wanaka. And we did this wonderful experience of doing a sauna, and then you you book the sauna for half an hour, but you go in for 10 minutes, then you go for a dip in the lake, and then you go back into the sauna, and then you go back into the lake, and you do 3 rounds. And it was a group, so I think you could have 12 people at once doing it. So you do book your time slot. And the lake we did ask what was the temperature. I think she said it was around 4 to 6 degrees, 4 or 6
What?
Celsius, that was. And
Oh
my
my god.
husband loves cold water therapy, so he'll quite often do cold showers. And so some people just didn't even go into the lake at all.
That
Most
would be
people
one of
did.
them.
Yeah, right. I managed
Yeah.
maximum 30 seconds before it felt like my feet were being sawed off with thousands and thousands of sharp knives. The
Oh
pain is so
gosh.
intense in my feet, I just couldn't stay
Oh
in. And there's my
no.
husband for 5 minutes.
Swimming.
Just like he's
Oh,
just this head bobbing, looking at the beautiful mountains, and everyone else
whoa.
was just like, "How's he doing that?" Like, I don't know. It's crazy what you
But
can train yourself to do.
exactly, yes, I was just about to say, I think it's really about repetition, right?
Yeah,
So it,
yeah.
it, it takes time to get used to something so different, like
Hmm.
physically, mentally. So yeah, I don't even know. Yeah, no, I would definitely not be able to do that. Not even
Crazy.
for 30 seconds.
Yeah, even 30 seconds. I was impressed with myself until I'm stood on the side shivering, waiting for my husband to get out 5 minutes
Yeah, no,
later.
no, 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 no. Sounds like my idea of hell. No.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, it was too painful. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to go longer than 30 minutes. I've got 30 seconds. I've got nothing to prove at all. Um, and where was I going with this? I was just saying how it's fascinating how we can train ourselves into things and know what we like and what we don't like, and that the
Hmm.
fact of moving to where we moved to, one of our big decisions around it was based on the weather. I do
Yeah.
not love the middle of summer here, but it's far more bearable than it was in Brisbane, which was,
Hmm.
for 10 months of the year, whereas here it's
Hmm.
maybe for 4 or 5 months of the year where it's
Hmm.
really extreme. And you were talking about how, that holiday time, so like around Christmas in particular, and people will be listening to this after Christmas probably, but absolutely agree. I still could not get my head around. I haven't had a couple of Christmases now in Australia, but it was just the weirdest thing to experience something that you're so familiar with in a hot climate. You don't do the hot
Hmm.
chocolates, you don't do the roast dinners, although actually lots of families do roast dinners at that time.
Hmm.
My husband's family is married into lots of Italians, so it would be a big Hungarian Italian mix. And so I'm eating basically pasta and schnitzel for Christmas dinner every year, and barbecues and things. That is what happened for many years whilst we were there, and it yeah, it would be the time of year I would be most homesick. And I have
Hmm.
noticed that, I don't know if it's just because time has passed and I'm older now, but I don't think that's it. I don't get as homesick now being in a
Hmm.
colder climate at Christmas. Um,
Mm.
which is weird because we're much more alone here. We don't have any family nearby here.
Mhm. Mhm.
um, I definitely used to get more homesick in Australia, and I do wonder if it's to do with where it just didn't. It just felt I was so disconnected from what we were
Mhm.
actually doing at the time.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, Funnily enough, though, Aussies, I think, might appreciate a colder Christmas more from the point of
Mhm.
view that all of their references are cold. So they
Mm.
still have Father Christmas dressed up in, really thick clothes
Yeah.
with a big
Yeah.
beard. They still
Yeah.
have all of the Christmas movies that we're
Mhm.
watching, but they're in cold
Mhm.
climates. They still
Yeah.
have all of those references to coldness.
Yeah.
So for
Mhm.
them, I've heard a lot of them say, "Oh, I've just always wanted to experience cold Christmas because that will feel kind of normal." So
Yeah.
that's a
Like
weird
a
one.
real experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah. I see what they mean. Yeah. I mean, as you can be used to a different kind of climate, but if, as you said, if all the images and the
Hmm.
cultural references are connected to something that's different to what you are experiencing, it may feel a little bit strange somehow. So it makes sense.
Yeah.
When I was in Florida, the first year I traveled because it was hot. And the funny thing is, before I moved there, my thought was, oh, it's gonna be amazing. I'm gonna have
Yeah.
a hot Christmas.
Yeah, it
I
started
really
great.
thought, yeah, no, it was such a weird thing because I thought I'm gonna have a hot Christmas. I'm gonna go to the beach. We're gonna eat outside, and then when December started, I was like, nah, this
No,
does
was
not
wrong.
feel like there were decorations everywhere, and I think probably because it's
Mm.
so hot,
Hmm.
everything is full on, like decorations and events connected to Christmas. Like, I don't know, they kind of probably try to compensate for the lack of snow and cold weather.
Yeah.
But I decided to travel to, where did I go? North Carolina,
Yeah.
just because I wanted to see the snow, and I just wanted to be in a cold place for a couple of
Yeah. Yeah.
days
Yeah.
and feel a
Yeah.
little bit more Christmassy. So yeah.
And look, America really does these holidays, as Americans would call it, um,
Yeah.
so well. I think that also helps since I've moved here that, I've got into the spirit more as well.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
now get our Christmas tree way earlier than I've ever got it in my whole entire life. In fact, so much so that I forgot to even record one of these podcasts with Feds. I was too busy buying my Christmas tree. We record
Yes.
every week the same time, but for
Yeah.
some reason that week my
It
Christmas
didn't
tree
happen.
purchasing was
Yeah.
more important, and I
Yeah.
completely forgot. Sorry, Fed.
Yeah, yeah. That's okay. But I agree. I mean, I when I was in Florida, I used to work for a very famous luxury five-star resort, and the Christmas
Oh,
decorations
wow.
were unbelievable. So
Wow.
it was so weird because I used to work at the front desk, and so I would be there and it would be surrounded by Christmas music and two
Mm-hmm.
amazing Christmas trees, lights, and
Mm-hmm.
it just felt so Christmas. And it was pretty cold because, like, air conditioning
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
set
Yeah.
to like the lowest
Yeah.
temperature possible. And then I would walk out in my flip flops, and I would be like, this is just not, there's something here that is not adding up for
Mm-hmm.
some reason. So, and I used to I worked on Christmas Day for 2 years in a
Yeah.
row because
Yeah. Wow.
let's be honest, I didn't really have anyone on Christmas Day to celebrate with. All my friends were working. And so I was just like, yep, whatever. So it really didn't feel Christmassy in the strict sense of the word, like my idea of Christmas. But I have to say, I never really felt homesick during
Mm-hmm.
Christmas. Like, I've always been very interested in celebrating Christmas differently,
Mm-hmm.
doing something that's unique. But the weather side, yeah, yeah, definitely, it resonates with me 100%.
And obviously Feds and I are from similar backgrounds in that sense, so this could be, I appreciate that we're specifically talking about Christmas right now.
Yeah.
It could be any celebration that you are familiar with. For example, when I
Mm-hmm.
was in Vietnam, obviously Chinese New Year was such a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's their equivalent of Christmas time, and celebrating that overseas would be, totally bizarre. It would be weird. And I wonder how people sort of deal with that. Something that I know that people do in Australia, which I think is a really fun and interesting thing to do, and I'd love to know if other cultures do something similar. Not necessarily with Christmas, and maybe Christmas sort of is quite specific because of the weather, but they basically do Christmas in July. So loads of people celebrate, and it's becoming bigger every year that they do a Christmas in July in Australia. That's very common,
Oh,
and I don't know if this was really led by Europeans. It probably was. Yes, it must have been. But off
yeah.
the boat Europeans, because obviously a lot of Australia is European descendant anyway. Um, uh, but I think they, were just, this does not feel right. And they really wanted to wear their
Mm-hmm.
Christmas jumpers and
Mm-hmm.
do all of the eggnog and all those types of things when it actually was cold. So yeah, every year
Mm-hmm.
that has become bigger and bigger and bigger.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there would be anything similar where you're celebrating,
Mm-hmm.
um, something like Christmas at a different time of
Mm-hmm.
year uh, in a different culture. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
That is definitely weather specific, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a good point here in terms of you can create your own traditions,
Yeah,
right? You don't have to stick to what's given. You don't have to stick to what has always been done.
yeah,
You can reinvent what you do and make it a little bit more suitable to where you live at the moment, in that moment, and just change things up a little bit. Make a little bit of a plan. Like luckily the last few years I've always been in cold countries. But now I kind of feel like I want to do the opposite. I was
okay,
actually
yeah,
talking to Joe and I was like, I really need a break during winter. Like I want to go somewhere warm. So just make a plan, make a seasonal plan just to see which months are the hardest for you and see where you can go to make it a little bit easier and just be kind to yourself.
absolutely. And just know that this is really normal, that the seasons really do play a part on us on a
Hmm.
physical level, not just an
Hmm.
emotional, what we reference those times of years to have. This is something that everyone, I think, goes through to a certain degree, unless you have literally found your place and the temperature never changes and that's your thing,
Hmm.
then maybe it doesn't. But
Yeah.
I think on the on the most part, I do think people like change
Hmm.
and not everything the same. So, sort of adapt to that where you can. And as you've just said, put a plan in place. If winters are really long where you live and that's a really
Hmm.
difficult time for you, maybe that's the time that you plan your main holiday of the year. If
Hmm. Hmm.
summers are, really unbearable for you, then try to plan going somewhere that feels more amenable to your
Yeah,
constitution.
that feels right. Yeah, 100%. I think like one thing that I've noticed for me as well is how light affects my mood.
Yeah,
And I mean, when I used to live in the UK, I used to get vitamin D, like little
yeah.
tablets of vitamin D
Yeah, it's a
because
good idea
I
there.
I really feel the difference.
Mhm.
Like now I'm in Italy, it's cold. It's still cold. Like today, now it's 6 degrees and it's 5:30 in the afternoon, but it's been sunny the whole day.
Yeah, and that makes a
So
difference.
completely, 100%. So one thing that I remember clearly from like all the years I spent in the UK is the sense of dread
Yeah,
over winter because it's
yeah.
gray. It's
It's the
so gray.
grayness. Yeah, I
You
totally get
just
that.
yeah,
We just
yeah.
had 3 days of grey sky, and both of us went, "Yeah, let's just remind ourselves that that's partly why we don't live in the UK."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because
It's not
3
even the
days in,
cold.
we were always
Yeah,
already saying, "Oh god, it's so
it
depressing."
it's not even the cold, it's really the so gray. It was just like,
Mhm.
yeah, no, 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 no. But, as long as you have a plan, as long as you know that light has such a big impact on
Yeah,
how you feel, plan around it. Like, all of these things are really manageable if you notice them and if you
absolutely.
decide to do something
There are
about it.
things that you can do, light therapy things that you can do, which aren't, I don't think, too expensive, to help you through those months. And I think it's just a really good reminder. We actually all know this, that light does this for us, but this is just us tapping you on the shoulder, reminding you, hey, if you're feeling a bit blue right now because you're literally living through one grey sky after the other, there's a reason for it.
Yeah,
So there
yeah.
are things that you can do. Taking vitamin D tablets is one of them. Um,
Hmm.
you have to have calcium with it, just to let you know. Otherwise, the vitamin D doesn't penetrate. So the combination is very good. Uh, and then the other thing is just try to get yourself in a place where there is some sunshine, or look into certain light therapy type things. Even those alarm clocks that just turn light, like natural light on in your bedroom to wake you up to,
Hmm.
can actually make a
Hmm.
difference to your
Hmm.
life
Hmm.
and make you just feel your overall mood can shift.
Hmm.
And how awesome would that be if we're like, oh, that's all we have to do to just feel slightly more buoyant
Yeah,
in the morning
yeah.
and get your pet back? Do it.
Yeah, I think that one important point here is that alone, all of these things don't seem to have a
Yeah.
lot of impact. But um, if you have just moved to a new country and if you don't know anyone, and it's the first time you celebrate holidays by yourself or far away from your family, it
Yeah.
adds up. It really adds up. And so you
Yeah.
want to try and have a
Yeah.
strategy for all of those things that you can control as
Yeah.
much as possible. And this is one of them, you know?
Absolutely. And the other thing to really take note of, especially for those who, well, actually, no, it goes both ways. It's personally moving your body. That's a really tough
Mhm.
one in the winter. And just trying to find
Mhm.
something that you can still do that feels
Mhm.
appropriate. Because for a lot of people, we just become really stagnant and still, which really doesn't help us because that means we get colder and it's through the core, through
Mhm.
your bones, So just finding something that you can do. I'm lucky I have a dog that absolutely forces me out every single day, rain or shine, or freezing cold weather. We just put 2 jackets on her. Like today, she had 2 jackets on, and we're out. so I'm always forced to do it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Without her, I would have to mentally charge myself more to do
Yeah.
more, for
Mhm.
sure. But just really try and find something that works, and be also mindful that different times of the year might require different needs, different things for your
Yeah.
body. Um, I know that my body works seasonally, but doesn't necessarily always match the seasons. So sometimes
Yeah.
we actually need to move a little harder in the winter to get the
Mhm.
blood going, and then we can sort of slow down. Sometimes we need to retreat more and be slower in the winter, and just try and tune into where your own season is. So it doesn't always have to match exactly what the weather's
Mhm.
like. And
Mhm.
I'm talking about that from the point of view that the last 5 years, I've referred to it quite a bit. I have mentally struggled with quite a lot of stress, much more than before. So the last 5 years, a lot of change, a lot of big decisions had to be made, a lot of stuff out of our control was going on. And so I kind of see the last 5 years as this big chunk of time, not necessarily as year one, year two, year three, year four, year five. It's like, okay, so over this 5 year period, I needed to move my body in certain ways that
Mhm.
weren't always the same throughout that whole 5 years. Um, I noticed, because I'm a yoga teacher, is my background, and I was loving really slow therapeutic movement before this 5 year period. But what I noticed was slow therapeutic movement for me through this really stressful time was actually not serving me. And this might go
Mhm.
against what people think. For me, actually lifting weights, moving more vigorously was a way for me to get out of my anxiety and get out of my
Mhm.
really heightened stress time. The
Mhm.
slower I
Mhm.
was, the more anxious I actually was feeling. So I had
Mhm.
noticed that I had to move my body in a really different way. So that's just something
Mhm.
that I wanted to share that
Yeah.
might give people food for thought. And it's just about tuning in and noticing, okay, what do I need at this season of my life?
Yeah. I mean, it's a trial and error situation, right?
Hmm.
So I think one of the main issues people experience is copying exactly what is given, what they
Yeah,
see online or
yeah, yeah,
what
yeah,
they hear,
exactly.
without actually listening to what their body or their mind
Yeah.
is saying, right?
Hmm.
So we have to be aware of how we feel, of how
Hmm.
something feels when we're doing it, and then tweak it
Hmm.
depending on what we need,
Yeah.
right? So sometimes it's just about finding the right combination of movement, activities, connection.
Yeah.
And as always, guys, let us know. I mean, I think it's the beauty of this podcast is that you can always let us know. You can always
Absolutely.
talk to us. Let us know what are those small things that help you, that make you feel better, that
Yeah.
lift your mood when the season hits hard, when you don't feel at your best.
And I want to know, what is your hardest time of year? What's your hardest season of the year? And what are your reasons for it
Hmm.
as well?
Yeah. So
Awesome.
you can always find us. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Instagram at the stretch zone underscore podcast. And I hope you're going to have, well, by the time you're going to listen to this, probably the holidays will have been done and dusted. But anyway, whatever big holiday you have ahead of you, I hope you're going to find a way to face it in the best possible way, spend it in the best possible way. Thank you, Hannah. It was a pleasure as always. And we'll talk to you soon, guys.
Take care. Bye.
Wrapping up today's episode, remember, you don't have to face change alone.
If you'd like to connect or learn more about working with us individually, reach out to us through our Instagram account at thestretchzone_podcast, or find our emails in the footnotes to this episode. We're here to support you on your journey, each in your own way.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of The Stretch Zone. If today's discussion resonated with you, remember to subscribe, leave a review, and share the episode with anyone who might benefit. Until next time, keep stretching beyond your comfort zone.